In a quiet street where time seemed to move slower than the rest of the city, there was an old clockmaker's shop tucked between a florist and a bookstore. Its wooden sign had long faded, the letters carved in cursive barely legible now. Few people noticed it anymore. Fewer still went inside. But those who did said the same thing afterward. That the air inside felt different. Lighter. Like the world had paused just long enough for their hearts to catch up. And behind the counter, among shelves lined with ticking clocks and shimmering pocket watches, sat a man named Emery Wren, the last clockmaker on the street, and the quiet keeper of something extraordinary. He was a man who could fix anything that measured time. Except, of course, his own. One rainy afternoon, a young woman named Isla Bennett stumbled into the shop, dripping from the storm. She was holding a small, golden watch in her palm, delicate, elegant, and completely still. "It stopped," she said, setting it gently on the counter. "It belonged to my mother." Emery looked up from his workbench, adjusting his glasses. His eyes were kind but far away, the color of worn brass. "When did it stop?" "Yesterday," Isla said softly. "At exactly 3:17. Emery tilted his head. "Strange. That's the moment the rain started yesterday. And yet, you don't look like someone who minds a storm." Isla hesitated. "It's not the weather that bothers me," she said. "It's silence. Ever since she passed, everything feels quiet in the wrong way." Emery nodded gently and opened the back of the watch. The gears glimmered faintly in the dim light. He turned one with the tip of a small screwdriver and frowned. "The watch isn't broken," he said. "It's waiting." "Waiting for what?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "For you to listen." Over the next few days, Isla kept returning to the shop. Sometimes she brought pastries from the bakery next door, sometimes she brought nothing but silence. Emery never asked why she came. She watched him work, his fingers steady, his movements deliberate, his face serene in the way of someone who had made peace with solitude. "Why do you fix watches when no one wears them anymore?" she asked once. Emery smiled without looking up. "Because time still needs to be cared for. Even when people forget it's there." He handed her the golden watch one evening, its glass newly polished. "I've cleaned the gears," he said. "But it won't tick until you wind it." Isla turned the small crown between her fingers, and froze. The moment she did, the shop filled with the faintest hum, like a whisper of music. "It's ticking," she said, astonished. "Yes," Emery replied softly. "But not for everyone. Only for those who are still waiting to forgive time for what it took." She frowned. He had once been a watchmaker for the city's wealthy families, crafting timepieces so precise they could measure a heartbeat. But years ago, after his wife fell ill, he closed his grand workshop and opened this tiny one instead. "She used to say I lived in minutes, not moments," he said one evening, dusting off an old pendulum clock. "Always counting, never feeling. When she passed, I stopped counting. And then time stopped, too." Isla looked down at her golden watch, ticking gently now against her wrist. "So you started fixing time again?" "I started listening to it," he said. "There's a difference." Isla smiled faintly. "And what does it sound like?" Emery leaned back, closing his eyes. "Lonely people," he said. "You can hear them if you listen closely enough. Every tick, every second, it's someone whispering to the world, 'I'm still here.'" One morning, Isla arrived to find the shop unusually still. The clocks were silent, every one of them frozen mid-tick. Emery sat by the window, a cup of untouched tea beside him. "Something's wrong," she said softly. He looked at her with a sad smile. "It's not wrong. It simply paused." She glanced around. "Can you fix it?" "I'm not sure I should," he said. "Sometimes the world needs to stop so people can remember what it means to move." He pointed toward the street outside. The rain had returned, and the people passing by seemed, slow, distant, almost transparent, as though they were walking through water. "Emery," she whispered, "what's happening?" He looked down at her watch, still ticking faintly in her hand. "You're hearing the seconds no one else can hear. The ones we lose when we rush, when we grieve, when we forget how to be still." Isla felt a strange warmth spread through her chest, a quiet calm that wasn't peace exactly, but something close. As the days passed, the world outside seemed to regain its rhythm, but Isla began noticing things she never had before: the old man who paused to feed the pigeons every morning, the child who stopped mid-play just to feel the wind, the way light lingered in the windows of the florist's shop long after closing. Time, she realized, wasn't always moving forward. Sometimes it circled back, waiting for those who had fallen behind. She told Emery this one evening as they closed up the shop. He smiled, eyes glimmering like clock hands catching the last light of day. "That's what the watch is for," he said. "To remind you that even the smallest seconds deserve to be lived." Then he added, more quietly, "And when you finally stop fearing the silence, you'll find the ones you've lost are still within it." One morning, Isla arrived to find the shop empty. The counters were dusted, the clock still ticking in perfect harmony, but Emery was gone. On the workbench sat a small box tied with a ribbon. Inside was a letter and a single silver watch, engraved with words so faint she had to tilt it toward the light to read them. "For the moments you almost missed." The letter read: "Dear Isla, thank you for listening. The shop belongs to you now, if you wish to keep it. Time has always been lonely, waiting for someone to see it not as an enemy, but as a friend. You did. If ever the world feels too still, wind the watch. It will tick again, for you, and for anyone who has forgotten how to begin. E.W." Isla pressed the watch to her ear. It was ticking, not loudly, not insistently, but softly, like a heartbeat long forgotten. Years passed, and the little shop remained open. The sign now read: "Wren and Bennett, time restored." People still came in carrying broken watches, but they left with something else, something invisible and weightless. A calmness. A reminder. Isla never advertised, never explained. She simply smiled and said, "It'll tick when you're ready to listen." And on nights when the rain fell softly against the windows, and the clocks hummed in chorus, she would sometimes feel a quiet presence beside her. The sound of another heartbeat. Another watch ticking gently in time. And she would whisper into the stillness: "Thank you, Emery, for teaching me how to hear time again." The watch that ticked only for the lonely, a soft breeze